Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon. Welcome to our budget module training. My name is Leanne, and I'll be facilitating our session today. So today I'll be providing you with an introduction and overview of the budget module, which is one of the three main financial management modules in Gate 3. So this is the one we've covered costing so far, and now we're pivoting into the budget module. Our focus today will be on that budget module, as mentioned, and eventually we will be able to describe how the cost management, budget, and billing modules are interconnected in Gate 3 and how they support project financial processes. As we've gone through the cost management module, understood kind of what our functions are in that module based on our role. And now in the budget module, we're going to see how the cost management module is going to inform some of the things we do in the budget module. And once we get to the billing module, you'll see how they're coming together more and more. So I will point this out as we go through it, but this objective that we see on the screen here is what we will be able to do once we go through all of them. So without further ado, let's dive in. So the project manager will spend most of their time in the budget module. Some things to note about the project budget is that it is your schedule of values for your prime billing. So to effectively use the budget module, it does help to understand your prime contract, as the prime contract type impacts the budget breakdown. So we want to be able to read and understand that prime contract clearly and as much as possible. Also, it's good to have a plan. It's important to plan out your billing framework prior to creating budget tiers and budget lines in the budget module, as how you create it in the system will affect your billing layout. Now, the project manager responsibilities within the budget module is to determine the budget breakdown, which is influenced and driven by the client or owner. You're also linking cost accounts. So every budget line must be linked to an internal cost account. Multiple to one is possible. However, it is strongly recommended to have a 1-to-1 ratio between budget lines and cost accounts, as it's cleaner that way. This is mandatory, especially when we're using the subcontracted cost account type, as mentioned earlier, as it ensures correct subcontractor payment by the subcontracting department. Also, you want to consider the payment application layout. When a budget line is saved, a billing line is automatically created in your billing layout. So you want to consider your owner or client payment application prior to creating your budget. Items can be rolled up into tiers and hidden on your payment application PDF so that only the tiers or category totals are displayed. We will review this further in our next session and a little bit today as well. So some project budget setup considerations that we have to keep in mind is that the CSI codes, or that 2004 master format division numbers, can be used as budget tiers, and budget tiers are used to group and categorize budget lines. We will touch on this later on. And the CSI codes are used for tracking purposes and follows that standard numbering format. The project teams, however, can select their own numbering if they choose, but it is recommended that we're using those CSI codes as our budget tier numbers. The project budget must always tie back to the contract value. We don't want to modify the original budget manually, or we only want to do this through the changes. We want to link our subcontracts to one budget line only, as mentioned, and we want to keep in mind that saving budget tiers and budget lines have a direct impact on the billing module. So these are some things that we have to consider and keep in mind when we're building out that project budget. Now let's take a look at the budget module within Gate 3. So this is the Gate 3 home screen that you'll see when you're logged in. I will be conducting our demonstration today in the training environment that closely replicates the live environment. When you're logged in, you may have different widgets here, but always you'll have this blue, navy blue pane, as well as the top bar with the project search bar in the center. So to ensure that you can access all the relevant modules for your project, on the left navy blue pane, we have to enter our project number in the project search bar. So for our demonstration purposes, we will begin by using project 70,000 as it is entered here. So to access the budget module, we'll hover on financial management and then click into budget. Since the budget module is in old gate 3, it will open in a new tab as we see, and the default view is the budget view. As you can see here, there is a lot of information here that is separated by columns. So we have columns that are grouped to provide the budget overview. So this is the yellow banner over here. Then we have some other columns that provide the costing as represented by the purple banner. And then we have the billing information as represented by this green billing banner. Now, I want to bring your attention, since we have a lot of information here, we have these filter fields on top that helps us to fine tune what we're looking for within this budget view. So for instance, say if we wanted to quickly look up a budget tier. Again, a budget tier is used to categorize and group related budget lines. We will go into this shortly. And if we're looking for, say, budget tier rather, number 9, I can enter this in the filter field above tier 1. And this will bring up all the tiers that have the number 9 in it, as well as its related budget lines, as we see here. I want to also bring your attention to this bottom blue hyperlink show results. Whenever we are entering something in a filter and we see this blue show results, that means that there are more results than what is appearing in our view. So we want to click on this. And over here, we see that we're only seeing 1 of 20 of a total of 36 results based on our search. And we can modify our display to include all of these results. So let's just go to the maximum so we can see all of our search results. Okay, so going back to our budget tier 9 that we just filtered for, with all the results loaded, we can see that on this bolded line here is the budget tier with the budget tier total. Under it, as we see, is its budget lines that have been grouped under it, and we see the number 9 beside the line numbers over here. And these budget line totals are rolled up, and rather they're summed up in this 13.3 million value over here. This is a sum of all of the linked budget lines to this tier. So that's kind of how the organization works with budget tiers and budget lines, which we will go into shortly. And to clear a filter after you've used it, you can click on this clear filter button on the top right hand corner right above your table here. Let's go ahead and do that. It'll give it a moment. Perfect. Some other commonly used features in this module are the view button. So this view button, we can click on budget and it will take us back to the budget view that we're in right now. This budget transfer is no longer used in this module as budget transfers are managed via the changes module. And then the next feature that is used is the new section. We can use the new section to create a new budget line or import budget lines. Again, we're not creating new budget transfers as this is now managed and done through the changes module. So going back to our slides, we have been talking about budget tiers quite a bit. So I want to spend some time for us to understand what they are and how they're used. So budget tiers are a numeric category used to group, sort, and summarize your project's budget lines. Budget tiers are used to organize and structure your budget billing. So the tier combines the total from all the budget lines and to provide a way to hide up these items and roll it into this tier. So if we see here, we have the tier line over here, 3 concrete, and in the yellow box, and this is our tier total. And in the green box is the linked or associated budget lines that would be rolled up, or we have the capability of rolling it up in the billing module, which we will go over at that point, to just show this line and this value on that invoice that gets sent to the owner, depending on how our contract is written. So we have that functionality, but it requires us to set up the budget tier first with the linked budget lines in order to be able to do that in the billing module. So as mentioned before, budget tiers are used to structure the billing and can be used to create a framework for setting up all of the details in the budget and within the billing. A simpler way of thinking of budget tiers is seeing them as a way to sort and organize your budget lines into divisions or categories. It can also be used to customize that invoice, as I was mentioning, that gets sent to the client, as you always want to make sure that that invoice is as organized as possible. While some projects use budget tiers and others don't, it is recommended that budget tiers are used for changes to keep things organized and tracked. Okay, so now we're going to return to our GA3 demonstration. And for the remainder of our project, I'm just going to quickly switch over to project 70019 for the remainder of our demonstration. So I'm just going to click into here and then click into our project 70019. And if you're ever in the old GA3 system and you're switching a project to get to the budget module, you click on Start, hover on Financials, and then click into Budget. And this is the budget view for 70019. Now let's create a budget tier. And to do that, we're going to click on Manage Tiers. And this will open the window. And I want to note here, when we're creating budget tiers, it is recommended to number them in increments of 5, so 5, 10, 15, for instance, so that if other tiers need to be added in between the increments, we're able to do so. So for instance, if we hypothetically wanted to create budget tier 9, we're now able to do that because when this was created, it was likely that it was created with those 5 increments, or increments of 5 rather. Now to add a budget tier of our new budget tier rather, we're going to click on Add Line. And then we're going to see here at the bottom, this is where we can enter our information for our new budget tier, which we will be creating for furnishings. Recall earlier when I said that to keep things consistent, it is best to align the budget tier number to the corresponding CSI division number. So that's what we're going to do for this new budget tier that we're going to be creating, which is for furnishings. Where in the number field, we're going to enter 12, as that is the CSI division number for furnishings. In the name, we're going to label this as furnishings. And for the generate totaling in a totaling line or instructions, we're going to leave this as a default yes, as this creates a totaling line in the billing, which will then give us that capability of rolling up the linked budget lines or not. Okay, and then we're going to hit save over here and then click on close to close out the window. Now that we've added this new budget tier, our budget view will contain this new tier that we have created. And in the tier 1 filter field, I'll type in 12. And if I hit enter, we see that this tier has been created. And we're now ready to add budget lines to this tier. And once we do that, it will appear underneath it. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll go ahead and click clear filter. So now let's create budget lines. There are 2 ways to create budget lines. That's manually or by importing budget lines. We'll begin by focusing on how to manually create a budget line. We do this by clicking on New and then clicking on New Budget Line. So this opens the budget line document in draft and edit modes. The budget line number can be 7 numerical digits, and it is recommended that the budget line number is the same as the cost account number it will be linked to for consistency. The cost account number is typically that CSI 2004 master format code. And you can find a list of all the cost codes and cost accounts on your project by navigating to the cost management module from the GA3 home screen. So let's go to that first tab that we have opened here. We'll just quickly make sure that we're in the right project, so 70019. And now we're going to, as mentioned, navigate to the cost management module. So hover on financial management and then click on cost management. And this will open the cost management module for this project. And as mentioned, we can come here and click on generate report to see all the cost accounts and what has been linked so far for our project. So let's go ahead and click on generate report. And then we'll open our PDF. So before we go in and take a dive into things, as mentioned, we created that budget tier for furnishings, which is 12. So we're going to look for furnishings and see what has been linked so far. So let's use this cost code 122000 or cost account. So we'll use this as our budget line number as well. And eventually we will link this cost account to the budget line we create. As we see, there's nothing created or linked here. No budget lines are created or linked, so it'll be a good example to use. So let's go back now. And for our budget line number, we'll enter that same number, but without spaces. So it'll be 122000. And now for the budget line name, I will enter window treatment. That's what I put. Window treatment. Perfect. I just want to quickly go back here for a second. I wanted to mention this, and I just recalled. So if you see the organization over here, we take in this yellow banner. This is the tier that we just created, or this is the CSI Division 12, the furnishings division, which is the budget tier we just created. This demonstrates how the information in the costing module should inform the information that we're inputting into the budget module. That's also why I came here, so that way we can see this cost account number and then be able to use it as our budget line number as well. And if we see this cost account name or description is window treatments, and hence the budget lines that we link to it has to be related. So hence my title is window treatment. Okay. Now, moving on to this financial summary section. For the draft, this is an optional field, so we don't really need to enter a value in here, but if we have it, then we can do so. For the original budget, it is a mandatory field, so we're going to enter a dollar value of 5,000 in this field. And then now we're ready to select or link a budget tier. So we're going to do that by clicking on Select Budget Tier. And we're going to link this to the budget tier we just created, which is 12 furnishings. So we'll click on that and then click on select. So it's added over here. So I want to take a pause here. Each budget line number specifically has to be unique within a tier and across all tiers. So for instance, if we were to create another budget line that would be associated to the same tier, and in general, the new budget tier number can use the same master format number that we see here. However, the last digit needs to be changed to the next sequential number to further demonstrate that grouping relationship. So for instance, the new one that I create that will be linked to the same budget tier, instead of being 122000, it'll be 122001, for instance. And I'll demonstrate this later on. So once we've done this, added the budget line details, populated the original budget, the next step we want to do is assign a cost account. And we do this by going to the next section of this document and by clicking on cost account assignment. So it's very important that we do link a cost account to this budget line, as this is the account that will be debited for the budget line. So once we're in the section, we're going to click on assign cost account. And we're going to look for that same cost account that we looked for when we were in this report, 122000. So let's do that in our search field above cost code. And when you're searching here, just as a tip, it does help to have the spaces between, as that's how it is registered in this window. So we're going to click on this checkbox right here and then click on assign cost accounts. And this now we have linked our cost account for our budget line. This last section over here, this transactions, this will get populated once transactions for this budget line occurs, but for when we're creating it, it'll remain blank. So after we have assigned our cost account and populated all the information that we need for our manual budget line that we're creating, like the tier, if we're using one, the number, the line name, as well as the original budget, we can go ahead and click save to save our budget line. However, if you need to make any changes, you can always save as draft if you need to come in and make changes at a later date, as you're unable to make edits after you've hit saved. So for our purposes, I'm going to go ahead and click save. Now we're going to be getting this pop-up as the system recognizes that there are two PrimePay application layouts for this specific project. And the system's asking us to select which layout we want this budget line or billing line to be linked to. So let's click the first one, and then we'll click on apply. Perfect. I'm just going to go back to our slides here. Since we got that pop-up, I do want to spend some time just to quickly talk about PrimePay application layouts. So a project may have several different PrimePay application layouts depending on the type of contract you hold or how the owner wants to see the billing. You may have a layout for changes that's separate from monthly billing or for pre-construction, pursuit, permit, costs, and so forth. So therefore, when you are creating a budget line and go to save it to a project that has multiple PrimePay application layouts, as we saw, the system will generate the pop-up for you to select which layout you want the budget or billing line to be linked to. Okay, now let's return to gate 3. Okay, so as we see here, the status went from draft and is now current. And to return to our previous view, which is that budget view we were in, we can click on this window icon, which is the current view, and it functions like a back button. Okay, perfect. So now in our tier field, I'm going to enter the tier that we created and linked our new budget line to. And as we see here, this is the budget tier, and this is the new budget line that we just linked it to. Okay, so let's clear filter. Now, the second way, as mentioned, to add budget lines is by importing budget lines. This feature is used when you want to add multiple budget lines at once. So to do this, you want to click on New and then click on Import Budget Lines. And we'll get this communication window or dialog box that opens up for us. So over here, we have the opportunity to download a sample import template by clicking on the blue hyperlink, which is coded for the here word. So we can click on the here in order to download the sample CSV file. So I'll open it for us to go through it together. Give that a moment. Just expand all of these columns so we can talk about it. Okay. So this template, as we see, requires us to fill out very similar information as you would when you're manually creating a new budget line. The tier 1 column can be populated. It's not mandatory. It's an optional field. But if your project uses budget tiers, you can go ahead and enter your tier in this column. The budget line number and name are mandatory columns for this file, so it is important that you enter your respective budget line and number and name in the respective columns. The draft budget column is optional, so you don't need to populate something in here, but the original budget is a mandatory column, and hence you do have to enter a value in this column. So for our purposes, I have gone ahead and created one for our demonstration. As we see here, I have put our tier number as 12 because this is the tier that we want these budget lines to be linked to. And I have put the budget line number, the name, as well as the original budget. Recall earlier when I said that each budget line number must be unique within a tier and across all tiers? Since the first budget line we created is also under tier 12 and the number was 122000, I've gone ahead and changed the last digits of these two budget lines to 01 and 02 to show that relationship between each other, the budget tier, as well as the cost account that these will eventually be linked to, as well as having a unique number that's not related to any of the other budget line numbers in the system. Okay, so let me go ahead and save this and close out of it. So now that we have populated that template, we can go ahead and click on specify target file, which will open a window of our local files, and we'll just search and locate the file that we want to import, which is this one. And we'll click on open to add our file. As we see here, the file has been added as the current source has the file name. And to import this file or the budget lines, we can click on import now to do that. So once we click that import now, it will add the imported budget lines as draft. And the easiest way to locate our imported budget lines is by scrolling right, using this horizontal bottom bar until we find the status column, which is right here, and then typing in draft. Okay. So over here, we can do one of two things. We can click these check boxes here and then click on save to save these imported lines, as this will update their status from draft to current. However, we will still need to go into each of the newly imported budget lines and link them to a cost account. So instead of doing that, I'm going to deselect these and I'm going to click on open in the actions column for our first imported budget line to link it to a cost account. But let's go ahead and click on open. And as we see here, under the budget line details, the tier got pulled in correctly, as well as the budget line number, the name, as well as the original budget as well. So all these got populated and imported from the Excel that we, or CSV file rather, that we imported into the system. Now I'm going to click on edit to put this document in edit and draft mode, and anything with a green banner is now editable. To assign a cost account, we're going to navigate to the cost account assignment section and then click on assign cost account. In the cost code filter field, we're going to look for that same cost code that we are working with, which is 122000, and then hit enter to locate it. We'll click the checkbox beside it and then click on assign cost account. Our budget line now has a cost account linked to it. And I'm going to navigate back to the budget line and click on save to save this. Since there are two prime pay application layouts, we're going to select the first one and then click on apply to have this billing line that's created from this budget line saved to the monthly billing layout. Okay, perfect. Now I'm going to navigate back to our previous screen, which was our filtered view, by clicking on this current view button. And when I go to click refresh, because I've gone ahead and hit save, the status of the imported budget line that we just saved will now have a status of current. So when I hit refresh, it should no longer appear here, as it doesn't. And what does appear is the second budget tier that I imported. So I'm going to go ahead and repeat the same steps for the second imported budget line. So I'm going to go ahead and click open under actions. And again, I'm going to put this in edit mode. All that information got pulled in from our CSV file. I'll go to cost account assignment, assign cost account, look for our code 122000. I'll click on this and then click on assign cost account. And then I'll navigate back, make sure everything looks good, and then I'll click on save. And then I'll need to assign a layout that I want this budget line to be linked to, and then click on apply. Perfect. So as we see, once we go through those steps and hit save, the status does get updated to current. And when we go back to our previous view by clicking on current view, when we hit refresh, it will no longer be there as it does not have a status of draft anymore. Okay, so now I'm just going to clear this filter and I'm going to look at this budget tier 12 that we've been working with. So over here, we see the budget tier that we've created, which is furnishings, and we see the manual budget line that we created first, as well as the budget lines that we imported right underneath it. And we see that the numbers are related, but they are unique such that their last digit is changed to the next sequential number, again, to show that grouping relationship. Also, we see that the tier total, as identified by this bolded font, this tier number or total right here is a sum of the budget lines that have been linked to it. Also, if we do now navigate to the status column, which is all the way to the far right, we see that all of them have a status of current because they've been saved. So importing budget lines is great. It's an effective way for you to add a lot of budget lines at once, but a few things to remember are that when budget lines are imported, they are added as draft. So you must go into each imported budget line as we did and link a cost account and save them to update their status to current. So there's also a report in the budget module that is very similar to the report that we were using in the cost management module that shows you the association between budget lines and cost accounts. You can create this report to see your newly added budget lines and their linked cost accounts. So how did we do that is by going to more actions on the top right-hand corner right here, and then we click on create report. This will produce a PDF of the budget report and we can click on it to view the report. So as we see here, the report is organized according to the budget tier indicated in this yellow banner. Under it are its associated budget lines, which are indented in this, we see it by this gray field, and then right here is that actual budget line number and name. Under each budget line is its associated cost code. So that's kind of how this report is organized. So let's look up the first budget line that we created, manually created. It was 122000. So here is the budget lines that we have created. This one right here, as well as imported. And they are all appearing under the budget tier we created and linked them to, which is the 12 furnishings. And under each budget line is the cost code that we linked it to. So that's how this report works, to see what has been created or what budget lines have been created and what's been linked and not been linked. I do want to note here that the material and labor reports that you receive are not generated from Gate 3. They're generated rather from AS400, which is our financial management system. The material reports are generated on Mondays, as the labor reports are generated on Tuesdays. A friendly reminder for you to do consult the cost accountants if you want to make adjustments to budget lines, as they cannot be edited after they've been saved. Also, you can reach out to your cost accountants if you are curious and want to begin working with budget lines, or rather budget tiers, for your project. Okay, so if you ever need a refresher or clarification of any of the steps we completed today for the budget module, you can always visit the help pages, and we can do that by navigating to the help section on the top right-hand corner of our Gate 3 screen. When we click on it, it will open our help pages for Gate 3 in Confluence. In this right menu pane, we can use the search bar to look for what, or search up what we're looking for, or we can scroll down until we see budget and we can click on the drop down arrow to identify all the related articles or help pages. So if we click on budget over here, we can see the user permissions for the budget module, who can create, edit, and import budget lines. What we went through today was managing budget tiers, creating a budget line, importing importing budget lines and assign cost accounts. So if you ever need a clarification on any of them, say for instance, you want a refresher on importing budget lines, you can click on it and it'll give you a step-by-step process or direction on how to replicate this or system. So this concludes our review of the budget module in Day 3. Okay, well, thank you very much for your time and participation. Please feel free to always reach out if you have any questions. Enjoy the rest of your day.